All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending the continuation of our mini series. I'm happy to be here today with Sheldon Roberts, who is our resident purchase card expert, and he's going to be talking to you today about the power of purchase cards. Feel free throughout the duration of the webinar to ask any questions. We will be taking around 10 to 15 minutes at the end to go through and answer any questions you guys do have. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Sheldon here and we can get started.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited today to be going through this webinar with everyone. I know that we're at the end of the school year and there are so many different things going on, but we find so often that now is just such a great time to either start talking about the purchase card program or start thinking about it. We have gotten the opportunity to go through and see a number of questions that some of you have either posted, or asked over the past several weeks once interest surrounding the purchase card webinar had first launched. So we'll want to make sure that we take some time to answer those at the end. And I would say if you've registered today and you're here listening to my familiar voice or even unfamiliar voice, please don't be afraid to ask questions. If we don't get an opportunity to answer the questions at the end of the session, which will take about 10 or 15 minutes to do, we will make sure to follow up with your questions via email. So again, don't be afraid to ask any questions. As Michael had said, I am our resident purchase card specialist, so I work with all things purchase card here at Diamond Mind. So I will, if I don't have the answer, which I probably will, but if I don't, I'll make sure that I'm able to get it to you. So you'll just answer any questions that you have surrounding that. So again, I'm super excited today to bring you this webinar speaking about the power of our purchase card program, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So first, before we get started with the purchase cards, I just wanted to quickly talk about who we are as Diamond Mind. I know that a number of our schools today and other organizations have either heard of Diamond Mind or they work with one of our education brand partners, maybe Senior Systems. And so you may have heard of us but may not know a whole lot about us. So Diamond Mind, who we are, we're the leading expert in campus-wide payment solutions for independent schools. And as the school industry experts, we're committed to helping schools improve business operations through adding and utilizing credit card processing, ACH, and purchase card. So really, we're your one-stop shop for all things payments on campus. We take pride in being that one-stop solution for you. And we've been doing this for over 10 years now. And it's just a really exciting family to be a part of here at Diamond Mind. So what do we do? So in a nutshell, we like to speed up and simplify invoicing and collections, improve school revenue and cash flow, increase annual giving through automatic recurring contributions, develop a cost-effective online payment and gift giving program, help schools save on credit card processing costs, implement auction and charity event collections processes, and manage school spending through purchase cards. So I'm just running through those super quickly. I know that everybody can read. I just wanted to touch on those. I know that we're interested in the purchase cards today, but also just want to give a high-level, quick intro into some of the other things we do here at Diamond Mind. And how we do it through a number of different products and services. So Tuition Pay is one of our flagship services. It's really just tuition payments simplified. Campus Pay, where we're able to create unlimited customized web forms. Our balance tool or software, where we allow for reconciling all of your deposits in one place. Our purchase card program, again, which is why we're all here today, helping to streamline spending across campus. And then, of course, payment processing, which we just allow for fast and easy deposits to schools' bank accounts. All right, so let's just dive right into the purchase cards here. I know that one of the biggest questions that folks have been asking is, well, what is a purchase card? I've heard about it. We know some other schools that are using it. Is it going to be a fit for our school? Tell me a little bit about the purchase card program. What does it do? Is it going to work for us? So a couple of high-level pieces to the card program. Well, this is really any purchase card program. A purchase card is going to help you manage spending through powerful controls and reporting. So we'll talk about some of the differences or the comparisons in just a few minutes here, but really the top thing to think about with the purchase card is that it allows a control in the business office or accounting department that you're not going to get from a standard corporate credit card. Some other things like empowering staff by simplifying purchases. Well, what does that mean? It really means that once we make it easy for staff to purchase things, as opposed to either having to use their own card, their own cash, having to give them petty cash, things like that, and then having to reimburse cardholders or staff, it just empowers them to make the purchases that they need. It also creates peace of mind in the business office by making sure that there are controls on the cards, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. And then, of course, the incentives for the business office, again, asking, well, why should we use a purchase card over our traditional spending method? Things like automatic cash rebates on purchases, all types of things, really anything that you're spending on, classroom supplies, travel expenses, utility bills, and then just bottom line savings. We'll touch on this a little bit today, but it's important to know that the savings that are generated through the use of a company card or a purchase card specifically are vast. And the reason for that is because it minimizes the life cycle of a purchase from a typical PO or reimbursement process to a simple issuance of the card with controls where they can simply make the purchases they need. And then if they need to fill out an expense report or anything like that, again, it vastly decreases the amount of time and resources required for a standard purchase, where you may see where somebody's purchasing something small, like even a pack of pencils that costs $1, and by the end of that purchase cycle, it's ended up costing the school $5 or $10 or $20 to actually purchase that pack of pencils. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. All right, so the big question is, well, what is a purchase card versus a corporate card? And again, so our purchase card or PCard program, it's a form of company credit card, but what it does is it allows for a greater variety of control. So we're used to having credit cards issued, and whether they be in our personal lives or even in our company or corporate lives, where we get a card and they say, okay, there's a specific limit on the card, or maybe we have somebody at the school where they have a card in their name and maybe they share it amongst other people and there's a credit limit on the card. Well, that's great in some instances, but when we want to start to issue cards not only in the business office but to staff and faculty as well, we want to have a little bit more control over what they're spending. And the purchase card allows for that. It allows for granular controls, things like per transaction limits, merchant category code restrictions, meaning you can control where cardholders can actually use the cards, how many transactions they can do in a day, if they can do international transactions, when the card limit resets. So all of those things the business office now has control over. And I know folks in the business office, one, we love control, but two, we also love peace of mind. We want to make sure that something that we're using it makes things easier in the business office and not more difficult. And another piece of the purchase card program is it's different than a revolving line of credit. You may have a company card that you're using now or familiar with your own personal card where you may have an outstanding balance on the particular card or the account. For the purchase cards, that balance is actually paid at the end of each term. So by that, we just mean whatever your billing cycle may be, whether that's monthly or semi-monthly or some other term, the entire balance is paid. And what that does is it allows to remove things like fees, interest rates, things like that. So continuing on with some of the comparisons here, and I won't go through all of these because we've talked about some of them, but I know that many of you have questions about that, things like how much does it cost to use the purchase cards, especially the Diamond Mine program. So we'll just answer those right off the bat, and we've compared our program to other either corporate purchase cards or other corporate card programs. So one of the things is that there's no annual fees for our cards. So this means that there's no application fee, there's no recurring fee for using our cards. We have spending controls, again, which we just talked about. There's no personal guarantee that's required. So many of you that may be familiar with somebody who has an American Express card that they're using at the school, they typically require a personal guarantee, but our program doesn't. Everything is underwritten on the financials of the school, which really, really makes our program very easy to use, because if somebody leaves the school, we don't have to get a new signer. We don't have to issue all new cards. We don't collect Social Security information or credit information from individuals. So it makes it very easy to transfer the card program from one administrator to another, and also allows us to not only issue cards when we need, but also issue cards and in different types of names when we need them, whether they be personal names or department names or specific events, whether you need a field trip card or a fuel card or a travel card. Whatever you need, we can do that for you. We've talked about some things like program flexibility, but also one-on-one training. This is really invaluable. Many card programs, they will set your cards up for you and then just kind of leave you out to figure everything out on your own. Again, I'm our purchase card specialist, so I work with all things purchase card, but also we have our client services team as well who assists. So if you have inquiries regarding your account, if you need help ordering cards, understanding your invoice, making changes to your account, increasing your credit limit, we can help you with all of those things. You never feel like you're out in the cold or by yourself when you have our card program. It really feels like you're part of a family, and you also have access not only to us here at Diamond Mine, but also other schools as well that are using our program. Well, a couple of other things just real quick here. Obviously, folks really enjoy that our program is focused on K through 12 schools. So this helps really to have an expert. You can get a purchase card program anywhere, and I'll be the first to tell you that. But when you have a company who is focused specifically in your area, it makes all the difference in the world. When you're calling and you need help or you want to know what your peers are doing in terms of spending or how they're managing their account, if you're working with a local bank or you're working with the first card company that you Googled, they're not going to have that information for you. They're not going to have the contacts and the resources and the experience that we have here at Diamond Mine that really allows for us to help you grow your program and know that you're in good hands. And the last two pieces that I'll talk about quickly here is just that there's no minimum spend requirement. We often see that with other card programs. They offer you all kinds of perks, discounts, cash rebates, all kinds of things, but then they slide the minimum spend requirement in there on you. And the next thing you know, you're spending way more than you had anticipated just in hopes of getting 1% cash back or saving up just enough points where you can redeem to get a new camera or something like that. And we don't do that. We don't impose minimum spend requirements on our schools, and for good reason, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later as well. And then lastly, as we kind of mentioned before, no per card fees. So whether you want a single card or you want 100 or 1,000 cards, we can do that for you. And you never pay for cards when ordering them. They're always free. All right. So just to kind of round that out there, again, why using a purchase card, we talked about customized purchase parameters. Again, just granular type of control that we can have over the cards. This gives the business office peace of mind, and you'll hear me say that a lot. And the reason I say it a lot is because I mean it. I hear it when folks say, this is exactly what we're looking for. We want a program where we can put a card in a cardholder's hand, but we're nervous. We're not sure if we can give them a card and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And our program helps to ensure that by allowing all types of controls over the cards and, again, giving you that peace of mind. You're going to have access to the cards online. So instead of just waiting for an invoice at the end of each billing cycle or month, you're going to be able to log in whenever you need, and you can manage the cards, whether that means ordering cards, looking at transactions, helping to activate or deactivate cards, pulling transaction reports, running all types of different spend trends and things like that. So it puts a lot of power in your hands and at your fingertips so that you can manage the card program the way that you want to. We talked about a little bit earlier about the life cycle of typical purchasing, so I won't spend too much time on that. But again, you save so much money when you're using cards over your traditional processing costs like purchase orders and invoices. Additional revenue spurred through use of purchase cards. This really, we're talking about the cash rebate, and we'll get into that a little bit more. We'll talk about the rebate tiers. But the bottom line is, so with our card program, not only will you have access to the cards and be able to use the cards for free, but Diamond Mine will actually pay the school to use the cards. You don't find that deal too often in life, so I think it's pretty exciting when you find a company that not only works specifically with your group, but then also will pay you to use their product or service. So I think that that's pretty cool. And then lastly, some of you who may have visited a purchase card program at some point in the past and found it to just be so cumbersome, having to do 1099 filings at the end of the year. You don't have to do those anymore. That changed a few years back, and all of that is managed through the processor, and so you're not having to worry about filing 1099s. So some common uses of P cards in the school. I know there were a few questions on this, like if we get the cards, well, how can we use them? Where are they accepted? The truth is that wherever, so we have a MasterCard program, so in our case, wherever MasterCard is accepted, you can use the purchase cards. People use them for all types of things: travel, utilities, new school computers, even legal services. A big one is fuel, especially if you have vans or buses or bus drivers, or maybe you're adding a new building on campus and need to do some new renovation or construction. Again, as long as they accept a card, your purchase card will work. Some other questions that we had were, well, what kind of benefits are there through your card program? So again, since we use a MasterCard, it actually defers to the MasterCard corporate benefits. This means things like zero fraud liability protection for online, phone, or in-store purchases, purchase assurance, 90-day warranty against theft or damage, extended warranties, rental insurance coverage is something that I get asked about a lot, especially for traveling employees and cardholders, and then travel assistance and medical protection. Now, all those are offered through MasterCard, so not directly through Diamond Mine, but they are corporate benefits of using the card program. So we had talked a little bit about the rebate and what that looks like. So the first thing that I tell folks when we're talking about our card program and they're wanting to know what are some of the rewards surrounding it. Well, one, I like to think of our card program as a reward in itself, but that's just me because I'm so familiar with it. But in all seriousness, our card program is focused around the controls and the peace of mind that it gives the business office. So it's not a rewards card. So many of you are familiar with your own personal rewards cards, and also maybe you're familiar with that. Folks use a company card to get points and things like that. But again, they don't have the controls, the online access, and some of those other things with the cards. So we wanted to show you today just what our rebate tier looks like. And to break it down just quite simply, the way that it works is the more frequently you pay, so we have different options, whether it be monthly, semi-monthly, or weekly. And then also the more you spend, well, again, there is no minimum spend requirement. The more you spend and the more frequently you pay, the higher your cash rebate is going to be. So we find that a number of our schools really enjoy doing a semi-monthly billing cycle, especially when they're on auto pay. And the reason for that is because when they do a semi-monthly billing cycle, regardless of if they're on a 7-day payment term, then they're always going to be getting some sort of cash rebate. It doesn't matter how much or how little they spend, they're always going to be getting that cash rebate. So if anybody has specific questions about the cash rebate, again, please don't be shy. Feel free to toss that in there at the end. Or if you want to just send me an email, and we'll put up an email address at the end so that you can contact us directly. I'll be more than happy to answer questions about that, because I know that a lot of people have questions, or their boss has questions. Like, yeah, get us a card, but make sure that we get, a huge reward for it. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that if you want. So previously we talked about the way that the purchase card works and that the full balance is paid at the end of each billing cycle. So we did touch on that, and we just talked about how we have a couple of different options here, whether you want to do a monthly, semi-monthly, or weekly payments. And this does affect the cash rebate. And schools that aren't necessarily concerned with the cash rebate, they do like that feature, but if they just want it to be a monthly billing cycle and they just want a lower credit limit, we could certainly accommodate that. And just keep that in mind. You still have the convenience of accessing the account online and still having those controls in the business office over the cards. Nothing changes there. It just alters the rebate slightly. And then with our accounts, the payment is due 7 days after the invoice becomes available. So that's our standard. In some cases, we do allow for 14-day payment terms. So that would be the invoice becomes available, and then you have 14 days to make the payment. We try to do those in one-off scenarios, but if you have questions about that, feel free to let us know. And we prefer to set up our payments, or whenever you're making the payment, on auto pay. We never like this to be a deal breaker, but what we've found is that schools not only are busy but have different schedules than a lot of other companies do. And because of that, we have staff that are in and out of the office. We find that payment dates often fall on holidays or on weekends, and we never want folks to get back into the office and realize that they've missed a payment. And we found that moving our accounts over to autopay has just helped to eliminate late fees, which is just removes a huge burden from the business office having to remember that, and it just works out so much better. But again, please don't let that be a deal breaker. If yourself or somebody that you're reporting to is asking about that, or there's a school policy, or the board says, hey, no, we can't have automatic drafts come out of our account, please send us an email. We can talk through it. We have a number of different payment options. We just want to make sure that when we set up the account, that it works the best for the school. So some other questions that we had, that I think these are just really great questions, are about the credit limits. Like, well, how do we get a credit limit? How do we know how much we qualify for? How does this get applied? Who gets what? So a really short answer to the question is that you actually get to decide your credit limit. Well, sort of. So when we're going through the application process, you're going to submit your financials as well, but you're also going to request a credit limit based off of those financials and how you want to structure your program, or at least initially. So this looks like something where you would say, okay, we need 10 or 20 or $50,000 or maybe more in a particular credit limit. When the application is submitted, then it's reviewed along with the financials of the comparative financials of the school for the past few years, and then a credit decision is made. Typically, the credit limit request is approved. If for some reason it wasn't approved, there's always a counter offer there. So if we find that we need to do something else, whether it be a lower credit limit or a slightly different type of account, we found that in some instances we have schools that are just getting established, or maybe they don't even want to actually do a credit limit per se, but they want to have access to cards. And so what they'll do is what's called a pre-funded account. So they actually submit a particular amount that they want to have. Maybe it's a few $1,000s, and it's available to their cardholders until that's used, and then they can submit a payment, or they can re-up almost at any time and add additional available credit to their account and to those cards. So again, the credit approval decision is based on the school's financials. What we find is that anywhere from about 50K to 100K is common, shared between an average of 10 to 50 cards. Please, please, please don't let those numbers shy you away. We have accounts with a credit limit as low as $5,000. We have other accounts that are way more than $100,000. So we wanted to put that in there as an average, but what we like to do is we look at your financials, and then we look at what you want to do at the school in terms of growing the program. We'll take all of those things into consideration when issuing a credit limit. So again, please don't let those numbers shy you away from contacting us and asking for more information or an application. Our card program is designed to be able to be flexible with our schools. That's why our schools love it so much. And again, like I said, just approved limits range anywhere from 5K to over $2.5 million. So whatever you need, we can accommodate you when it comes to a credit limit, and then also with the type of program and the number of cards and the admin tools that you need to successfully implement and run your program, and not only run it, but grow it. The last piece that I want to talk about real quick, this is where I actually get to toot my own horn just a tad, for what you will get when you have a Diamond Mine purchase card account. I know that there are some of you on the line today that are familiar with me, who have worked with me in the past. I enjoy working with all of our schools. I love it so much. One of the things is just because I learn so much from you all, but then it also gives me a deep insight into what schools are doing, what their trajectory is, how they want to grow their accounts. And what that does is it allows me to then share that information with other schools and help them to grow their programs as well. And again, like I said before, you don't really get that from a local bank or from a Google search. And when you Google search company card or school card or something like that. But when you have a company who is focused on schools and making spending on campus and outside of campus easy and more streamlined and less of a headache and giving you that peace of mind, putting all those things together, it's really invaluable, especially when you add on to it that it's free to use and that Diamond Mine will pay you to use the cards. I mean, I don't know how to create a better deal than that. It's almost just it's just so amazing. But so you get a Sheldon, so that's me, but you get a purchase card specialist with your account. It just means that you have dedicated support at all times. If you have questions, we have our own purchase card line, so you don't even have to call in and try to figure out who you need to call. You can call me directly, or we also have a purchase card line, so if you have inquiries about that, they will always get to someone who has knowledgeable information about our card program. So not only do we have assistance here at Diamond Mine, but we also, so our card partner is Comdata, and they have their own specialized account management team. I work with them every day. They're a fantastic group to work with. And so not only do you have support here at Diamond Mine, but also support at Comdata. So it's just really unparalleled the amount of support that you have. And then, so for cardholders and admins, whether they need to contact Comdata or contact Diamond Mine, they're able to reach out and get that information. And then last but not least, this is one of the big things I know folks talk about. They have questions about fraud. What do we do in instances of fraud? How does that work? Comdata implements a fraud notification system where they are monitoring transactions all the time. They notify admins who are then able to get in contact with cardholders and ask questions about, hey, is this transaction valid or legit? So it makes it really, really easy for folks to monitor their account, but then also have, again, that peace of mind knowing that their account is secure and that if for any reason, if there is fraudulent or compromised cardholder activity, that it will be handled quickly and that they have access to manage it themselves online. So it just really, really works out well. So, all right. So we've gone through quite a bit today, but there's so much that we can talk about purchase cards, and I would love to speak with you more about that. So if you'd like more information or a demo, or you want us to send you an application, you can contact us directly. You can contact our PCard team at pcard@diamondmineinc.com. Again, that's pcard@diamondmineinc.com, and we'll leave the link up here. If you want to call our PCard line, it's 888-566-0945, extension 444. So feel free to contact us through either of those methods, whichever you prefer, and that way we can schedule a call. And then from there, either myself or someone else on our PCard team will actually reach out to you to then schedule a call. We can go over things, program details, and discuss opportunities. Again, I know folks have lots and lots of questions, and I'm excited to be able to answer those for you. Once we actually get to the point where you're ready to submit an application, it's really simple. We would send you the application. It's a few pages, and it doesn't ask for any personal information. It just asks for information about the school, signers, things like that, the credit limit requested, and then from there, it's just the most recently audited financials. Sometimes people ask, well, we don't have an audited financial. Can we send other either bank documents or an audit or something, or financials that have been done through a CPA? We will accept those as well. Again, don't let that shy you away from submitting an application. If you have questions about the documents that are needed, please, please, please just contact us and we'll definitely get you taken care of. And then last but not least, just a bank letter of voided check. And this is just so that we can set up the payment so that you can submit the payment. And typically, again, folks have questions about this as well. How long does it take? Can we get a card program set up pretty quickly? I know that, again, where it's at the end of the school year now, so you're either thinking about setting something up for either over the summer or mulling it over during the summer and having it ready for the new school year. Now is a really, really great time to start doing that, and it's fast. So we can do underwriting in typically 1 to 2 weeks. From there, we can have cards in your hands typically about a week after that. So I like to tell folks about 30 days, but it can be done much quicker than that depending on the need. So it just makes it really fast and easy. And we're experts here. We love working with our schools and getting those cards in your hands so that you can make spending easy on campus and wherever you go. So with that, that's all that I have for you today in terms of the presentation. We're going to take a few minutes and we're going to collect some questions. So bear with us for just a moment here, and then we're going to answer some questions. Again, please don't be shy. Feel free to submit those through your panel, and then we'll start to answer some of those questions. And again, if we don't get to answer the questions on the webinar today, we will absolutely follow up with you via email. All right, so I'm just going to read a couple of these here. So one question was just about the overview of the use and if it's a good fit, understanding the difference between credit cards and purchase cards. I think this was entered pretty early on, and I hope that we were able to answer most of those questions. But I think I like a word in this question, which is fit. And this is a word that I use often, and the reason for that is because ultimately the card program has to fit. It has to be a good fit for the school. Now, obviously, I'm a little biased, and I'm going to say yes, the card program is a good fit for the school, but I always like to ask those questions. I like to understand what the school is using as a card program now or a purchasing program now, some things that they'd like to do, how they want to grow it, what are the solutions that are in place, or if they could wave a magic wand, what would they like to see? And so that helps us to determine fit. Again, we've designed our card program with schools in mind. So in general, yes, our card program is going to be a good fit for the school, but there are some cases where we find that there are other card programs or different methods that may be a little bit better or different. So again, if you have questions about that specifically, is this going to be a good fit? You know, we only have one, we only think we need 1 or 2 or 3 cards. Can you do that? One, the answer is yes. But you know, whether it's 1 card or 100 cards, we can do it. So please, again, feel free to contact us about that. We have, I'm going to move on to the next question here. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that, or Matthew. He asked a question, do the cards have to be linked to a particular individual? And the answer to that question is no. And this is one of the big differences, again, between our cards and other corporate cards. So first off, there's no personal guarantee that's required. So the cards in the account are underwritten on the school. Secondly, if we want to issue a card, we can do that. We can do it in an individual's name, but we can also put any other name on the card that will fit within the allowed characters. So a good example, we have many schools who have bus drivers, and they have a driver one card or a bus driver card, or maybe they have specific trips. Maybe they have a spring travel or a 7th grade program. You can emboss the card with those names instead of an individual name, and you can use those cards as well. All right, another question that we have here is, can the limits be set annually rather than monthly for some of the individual cards? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So thank you for asking that, Douglas. In terms of the limits on the cards, we have many, many different ways that we can set those limits. Typically what we see is either a daily, a weekly, or a monthly limit on a card. That also includes like per transaction limits as well. But what we found as we've grown our program for our schools, we do have that question come up pretty often, which is, okay, we want to create a budget or we need a budget card for our teachers or for our departments. can we make it so that the card limit just is in effect for that entire year? And the answer is absolutely yes. So please feel free to contact me directly about that as well. I'd love to talk you through some of those finer points, but it can definitely be done. And I've seen some really cool implementation of that, and it works really, really well for not only the cardholders who are having to abide to a budget, but also tracking that in the business office. So it makes it really, really easy, and it just life-changing almost. Another question that we have is, can we get reports of purchases by vendor so we don't lose that data? The answer to that is also yes. So we have lots and lots of analytics when it comes to the card program. So if you need to actually pull this type of data, if you want to do it by merchant, you can certainly do that. If you want to do it by merchant category code. So if you're not looking at specific merchants, but you just want to know, okay, how many travel-related purchases have we made, or how much have we spent on travel this year? We have reports that will allow you to do that. Or if you just want to go back and pull different reports and say, okay, how much did a cardholder spend on a particular, through a particular period, we could do that, whether it be a cardholder summary, if we want to see, you know, what the average use of cardholder spend was over a period of time, we can do that as well. There was a question about if we'll actually, if these slides will be emailed out to the attendees, and I believe the answer is yes. Is that correct? We're going to be emailing folks? Yes. So we will email everybody who's registered or attended today. You will receive the slides.
Also, Sheldon, if I can just come in here
Sure.
as well. We did also include a PCard piece of collateral that you can easily download through the portal that you are watching this in. It should be to the right-hand side under handouts. Just has a little bit more information on the PCard as well.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Looks like we have a few more questions here. I want to thank both Matthew and Douglas. You're participating so well today. Another question here, which is, can you put a max transaction amount on each card? And the answer to that is yes. So the way that we manage the transaction limits or the card limits are through what are called purchasing profiles. I don't want to get too deep into that today, but I do want to answer the question and say that yes, you can put a max transaction amount on each card. So we can manage the cards through a daily amount, a per transaction amount, a weekly amount, a monthly amount, or we can do it also annually as well. So pretty much any type of limits or restrictions. I could go into many other details. We can do it by region. We can do it internationally. We can do it by the number of transactions per day. So if you only want a cardholder to be able to make 3 purchases per day, we can do that too. So the world is really your oyster when it comes to putting limits on these cards. And again, we're all about ease of use and peace of mind in the business office. All right, we got just a few more questions filtering in here. And I know that some folks either have been asking about this or it's going to come up at some point. So you've got your purchase card program in place. Now what now? How do you record transactions? How do we get an approval system? So there are a couple of answers, and I won't spend a lot of time on that because we could really spend an entire webinar on that. But if you're interested in online coding, we do offer some software solutions for that. I would recommend that you contact our PCard line, contact me directly for that, and we can go over some additional information on what the best fit is for the school in regards to coding. I know that we have a number of senior systems clients that have joined us today and have questions about if the card program integrates with senior systems. I'm happy to let you know that we do have a number of our schools that currently use senior systems and have their reporting set up so that they can actually import that data into senior systems. And I'd love to talk with you about that more. So again, please feel free to contact us so we can go through that together. All right, I'm going to do just one last call for questions here. Again, please don't be shy. We still have quite a few people. I think almost everybody who started out with us today is still here with us. So if you have any questions or if you're just holding on to those tightly and want to just email me afterwards, feel free to do that as well. We'll wait just another minute or two in case another one pops up. All right, looks like that's it for the questions that have been submitted through the panel here. Again, I'm going to actually just do a slide back. If I can navigate backwards, here we go. And just leave this up for a few more minutes. Again, if you need that contact information, it's pcard@diamondmindinc.com, or if you want to call us directly, it's that 888-566-0945, extension 411. Please feel free to contact us at your convenience. I know it's a busy time now at the end of the year, but it's also a really great time to start thinking about adding that purchase card for either over the summer and having it ready, or building that up and having it ready for the new school year as well. So I want to thank everybody today, not only for registering, but also for your attendance. These are some really great questions. A big shout out to both Douglas and Matthew for supporting us in that area. I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you. And again, if you have questions that you want to submit later, please feel free. I'll reach out to everybody who's registered today to ask if you have any additional questions. So we will make sure to touch base with you. And again, we'll send out the slides to everybody who's registered and attended today. So again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.